Do you know why some traders swore, "This time I will be disciplined," but only a few days later, they go right back to the exact same old habit? Not because they are stupid, not because they lack a strategy, but because they are trying to win a multi-year war inside a few-session battle. Have you ever seen this scene? One fine day, you trade really well. You enter the right setup. You place stop-loss properly. You exit according to the plan. You exhale. You think, "Oh, so I can actually do it." Then the next day, all it takes is one stop sweep, or one gold candle that runs 200,300 points in a few minutes. Your heart beats faster, your hands get warmer, your eyes cannot leave the chart. In your head, a very small voice begins. Enter again. This time it's right. Just get back what you just lost. If you don't enter, it will run without you. Oh, and then you break discipline, not because you want to break it, but because your brain wants to escape the discomfort immediately. That is what makes trading hard. A losing trade doesn't kill you. What kills you is the feeling of having to live in uncertainty, the feeling of being left behind, the feeling of being insulted by the market, the feeling that I must do something right now. And here is what I want to say to you directly from the start. If you are trying to remove every bad habit in trading by changing your life overnight, you will fail. Not because you are weak, but because that way goes against how the nervous system works. But what if I tell you, there is a Japanese method, extremely simple, so simple you might laugh, but powerful enough to destroy bad trading habits at the root? Kaizen. Continuous improvement. Micro changes, so small your brain doesn't trigger an alarm. And it's not just working harder. Kaizen is a system that respects the real you, respects fatigue, respects pressure, respects weakness, but still moves you upward, millimeter by millimeter. I will tell you a story, not to show off, but because you will see yourself in it. Chapter 1. The day everything changed direction, I'll call him Nathan. Nathan wasn't a beginner. He had traded for 7 years, long enough to know every correct piece of advice, long enough to memorize lines like, "Cut losses fast," "Let winners run," "Don't revenge," "Don't overtrade," "Don't increase lot size when angry." He knew everything. But strangely, his account was still unstable. Nathan had a classic problem that is incredibly hard to cure. He broke discipline, exactly at the most important moments. And when he won 2 trades in a row, he started going bigger. When he lost 1 trade, he jumped right back in. When price moved fast, he FOMO'd. When price went sideways, he got bored and clicked randomly. On days he was clear-headed, he traded like a textbook. On days he was tired, he traded like someone else was holding his hand. And the thing that scared him the most was the moment right after he had just broken discipline. You know that moment, right? You look at the trade history. You look at the stupid entry. You look at the stop that got dragged. You look at the lot size that just doubled, and you think, "I don't understand why I did that." Nathan was the same. One night, he sat alone. The chart was still open. The market was still moving. But he wasn't looking at the chart anymore. He was looking at himself. He remembered, from year 2 to year 7, how many times had he started over? Monday, disciplined. Tuesday, disciplined. Wednesday, break. Thursday, recover. Friday, emotional burnout. Weekend, regret. Then, another new Monday, restart my life. He used willpower like a whip, whipping his own back, forcing himself to be strong, to be tough, to be perfect. But the more he whipped, the more tired he became. The more tired, the more he broke. The more he broke, the more he hated himself. And that loop kept running. The peak was a highly volatile gold session. Price moved like crazy. In just a few minutes, it swept both sides. Nathan entered a trade. He got stopped out. He said, "It's okay, according to plan." But price kept running. He watched it run. And the feeling of being left behind stabbed his chest like a needle. He entered again. Bigger lot size. And stopped again. At this point, it was no longer trading. It was an argument with the market. He dragged the stop. He moved the stop. He removed the stop. He stared at candles. He stared at P&L. He couldn't hear anything except his heartbeat. When the session ended, he didn't lose because of the market. He lost because he was no longer himself. That night, he texted an old friend, a friend who traded very plain. Plain as in, no drama, no bragging, no emotional roller coaster, but consistent. Nathan texted, "Is there a way to drop these bad habits? I've tried everything. Discipline, journaling, fines, rules. But whenever I'm stressed, I break again." The friend replied very briefly, "Yes, but it will piss you off. Because it's so small, you'll think it's useless." Nathan read it and snorted. So small it's useless? In Nathan's head at that moment, there was only one thing. He needed a transformation, a reset, a strong system. But his friend said, no. Changing bad habits in trading doesn't need to be strong. It needs to be correct. And that was the first time Nathan heard about Kaizen in trading. But how does Kaizen in trading begin? Not with from tomorrow. Every trade risks only 1%. Because that sounds good, but it's too big. Not with from tomorrow, no more revenge trading. Because that is a vow, and vows die very fast when you are tired. Kaizen begins with something so small, you'll laugh. Chapter 2. The first Kaizen step, so small it's funny, Nathan's friend met him at a cafe. Not to teach strategy, not to look at charts, just to ask one question. When do you break discipline the most, exactly? Nathan answered immediately. After I lose. Yeah, or when price runs fast. Or when I'm tired. But mostly after I lose. His friend nodded. Then I don't need to fix your whole personality. I only need to fix the 30 seconds after a loss. Nathan frowned. What does 30 seconds have to do with anything? His friend looked straight into Nathan's eyes. Because a bad habit doesn't appear all day. It appears at a door. A threshold. You step through that door, and then you slide. Nathan was silent. His friend took his phone, opened notes, and wrote one line. After every losing trade, stand up and drink one sip of water. Only one sip. Nathan burst out laughing. Come on. Lose a trade and drink water? Sounds like some nonsense health tip. His friend didn't laugh. I know you'll laugh. Because your brain is addicted to big solutions. It wants a life-changing punch. It wants the feeling of, I'm doing something serious. But that same brain is what makes you break discipline. Nathan wanted to argue. His friend raised a hand to stop him. Let me finish. That sip of water won't make you better at trading. It does something else that's more important. It creates a gap. A gap. Have you noticed, when you lose a trade, the emotion doesn't come from the number. It comes from the interpretation. I'm stupid. I got tricked by the market. I have to get it back. I can't end the day like this. If I don't get it back, I'll miss the opportunity. I must enter again right now. All those sentences run very fast. And if there is no gap, you will act on them like a reflex. His friend said, Kaizen doesn't fix emotion first. It fixes behavior first. Because behavior is what you can control. After a loss, I don't promise I will stay calm. You can't control calm. You can only control whether you stand up or not. And I choose for you one action, so small you have no excuse to refuse. One sip of water. Nathan still felt irritated. He felt underestimated. He wanted something worthy. He wanted a grand checklist. He wanted a perfect risk management system. But his friend added one sentence that made Nathan go quiet. If you can't even keep one sip of water, don't expect to keep discipline when the market sweeps 300 points. Nathan sat still. True. Nathan's problem wasn't lack of knowledge. His problem was he didn't believe he could keep his promises. He had made too many promises, big promises, and broken them too many times. So, deep down, he had a default identity. I'm the kind of person who breaks discipline. That's identity. And to change identity, you don't need a jump. You need a small piece of evidence every day. His friend added one more rule. No arguing, no optimizing, no adding extras. Just one thing for 14 days. Every time you lose a trade, stand up, walk away from the desk, drink one sip of water. That's it. No journaling, no analysis, no self-blame, no vows. Just do this. Nathan asked, what if I lose 5 trades? Then I drink 5 sips of water? Yes. You will have a new habit, instead of the old habit of losing and instantly clicking again. Nathan went home. He thought it was silly. But he also felt it was easy. And this is the key. Kaizen doesn't choose the best thing. Kaizen chooses the most sustainable thing, because what you can sustain becomes identity. Day 1. Nathan tried. He lost a small trade. The familiar feeling rushed in. Enter again. He almost clicked, but then he remembered. One sip of water. He stood up, went to the kitchen, took one sip, and in that moment, something strange happened. Not that he stopped being angry, not that he became a monk, but he had interrupted the circuit. Like someone about to light another cigarette, but suddenly has to go wash their hands. Just one different action inserted, and the brain loses momentum. Nathan returned to the desk. The chart was still there. Candles were still moving. But the feeling of I must click now became a little weaker. Just a little. And Kaizen doesn't need more than that. Day 2, he lost another trade. He stood up and drank water again. Day 3, he started to feel truly uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable because of the loss, but uncomfortable because he was being stopped. That urge to click now felt like an itch, and the new habit forced him to endure the itch for 10 more seconds. A normal person would say, forget it, this trick doesn't work. But his friend had warned him, if you feel uncomfortable, that means it's hitting the right spot, because it's striking the thing you're addicted to the most. Nathan began to understand. Bad trading is not a lack of discipline. Bad trading is a kind of addiction, addicted to relieving emotion through action. Lose arrow discomfort, arrow re-enter to remove discomfort. But re-entering doesn't solve the loss. It only solves the feeling of loss for a few seconds. Then it creates a bigger loss. Kaizen doesn't ask you to be strong. Kaizen only asks you to delay the reflex. And delaying the reflex is the foundation of discipline. By day 7, Nathan realized something. Then he no longer clicked back in immediately. Not because he had no desire, but because in his head there was now a new sentence. After a loss, stand up. A very small sentence. But it began replacing the old one. After a loss, get it back. And that was the first Kaizen step. But the story didn't end there, because after 14 days, Nathan's friend said, now you have evidence that you can keep a promise. And now we add the second step. What is the second step? It relates to Hara Hachi Bu. Eat 80%. Stop before you're too full. But in trading, what does eat 80% mean? It's not about food. It is stopping before you are too full of emotion. Chapter 3. When Japanese philosophy enters trading. After 14 days, Nathan met his friend again. He didn't become a perfect trader. He still had losing trades, still had moments of discomfort, that still had moments of wanting to click randomly. But something had changed very clearly. He no longer re-entered immediately after a loss, not because he was more disciplined, but because a new behavior had inserted itself between emotion and action. One sip of water, one gap, one breath. His friend asked, how do you feel now? Nathan thought for a moment. It's not that I'm calmer, but I have more time to think. That is the key point. Trading doesn't require you to have no emotions. Trading only requires that you don't act immediately on emotions. That was when his friend began describing the complete system. Kaizen is only the door. Behind it is a whole life philosophy. Nathan frowned. What does life philosophy have to do with trading? His friend smiled softly. Trading is not a technical problem. It's a problem of how you live every day. Then he took a piece of paper and drew 5 circles. Ikigai, Kaizen, Hara Hachi Bu, Wabi-Sabi, Gambaru. These 5, if you understand them correctly, you won't have to try to be disciplined anymore, because you will become a person who naturally lives like that. Nathan looked at the paper, still not fully understanding, but he listened. Ikigai in trading. His friend asked one very simple question. Why do you trade? Nathan answered immediately. To make money. His friend shook his head. That's not the real reason. That's the result. The real reason is, what life do you want? Nathan fell silent. After a moment, he said, I want more freedom. I don't want to be stressed about money. I want time for my family. I don't want to live under pressure forever. His friend nodded. That is your Ikigai in trading. Not winning trades, but living a life with choices. And here is the biggest mistake many traders make. They trade to win trades, not to build a life. When the goal is winning trades, every loss hits the ego. Every candle against you feels like an insult. Every missed opportunity feels like pain. But when the goal is a long life, one loss is just a small step. Ikigai puts trading in its proper place, not the center of life, but a tool that serves life. And when trading is no longer everything, you become less desperate when you lose, less FOMO when you miss, less panic when the market moves fast. Kaizen in trading, his friend continued. Kaizen means better by 1%, not better by 100%. Nathan asked, in trading, what is 1%? It's today, you keep one rule, a little more than yesterday. That's it. Not perfect from tomorrow. Not no mistakes from tomorrow, just make fewer mistakes by a tiny amount. A very practical example. If you usually take 10 meaningless trades per week, this week take only 9 meaningless trades. That is Kaizen. If you usually drag stops 5 times per week, this week drag 4 times. That is Kaizen. Your brain doesn't need perfection. It only needs direction. And a small direction, when accumulated long enough, becomes a big change. Hara Hachi Bu in trading. His friend asked, do you know when you trade the worst? Nathan answered immediately. When I trade too much, that is Hara Hachi Bu. Japanese people eat until 80% full. Good traders stop at 80% excitement. Most accounts don't die on the first trade. They die on the third, the 5th, the 10th. When you've won a few trades, dopamine rises, confidence rises, alertness drops. Oh, that's when you eat too full. Hara Hachi Bu in trading means stop when you still want to trade, not stop when you're exhausted, not stop when you're emotionally burned, but stop earlier. A very simple example. You usually take 5 trades a day. This week, set a rule. Maximum 3 trades. You will feel uncomfortable. You will feel, but there are still opportunities. But that feeling of still wanting is the sign you are stopping at the right time. Wabi-Sabi in trading. His friend looked at Nathan and said gently, you will still break discipline. Nathan sighed. Yeah, probably, not probably, definitely. Trading is not a perfect journey. It's a journey of stumbles. Wabi-Sabi teaches a very important thing. Imperfection is part of the process. The biggest mistake of a trader is not breaking discipline. The biggest mistake is breaking once and quitting entirely. One bad trading day doesn't destroy progress, but 1 month of quitting does. Wabi-Sabi gives you permission to make mistakes, but it doesn't give you permission to quit. Gambaru in trading. His friend said, Gambaru is not trying like crazy. It is continuing even when you don't want to. The days you're tired, the days the market is slow, the days you have no motivation. You don't need to do a lot. You only need to do the minimum so you don't lose momentum. Open the chart, write a few lines in a journal, keep one small rule. That's it. Gambaru is not exploding. Gambaru is not disappearing. Nathan sat quietly for a long time. He realized for years he tried to change through willpower, but willpower is like a match. It burns bright, then goes out. A system is like an oil lamp, not dazzling, but it burns a long time. His friend said one last sentence before they stood up. You don't need to become a disciplined trader. You only need to become a person who does small things every day. And that was when Nathan began to truly change, not with one big decision, but with small changes repeated long enough until they became who he was. But there is still a very important part that most traders don't understand. Why does our brain resist big change but accept small change? Why is Kaizen not just philosophy, but also proven by neuroscience? And most importantly, how do you apply Kaizen into a 14-day process to begin removing one bad trading habit starting this week? Chapter 4. Why big change always fails and small change wins. There is something very few traders realize. Their problem isn't willpower, it's biology. If the human brain is designed to survive, not to optimize, not to be disciplined, not to become a good trader, but to avoid danger. And to the brain, any big change feels like danger. Try to remember, how many times have you said, From tomorrow, I will follow the plan perfectly. From tomorrow, every trade is only 1%. From tomorrow, no more revenge. From tomorrow, I will only trade one-time window. Those sentences sound correct, but they are too big. The brain hears one thing, change my entire way of living, and it turns on resistance mode. You will see many familiar signs. You procrastinate. You forget. You feel tired. You feel randomly irritated. You convince yourself to break the rule. Not because you are weak, but because the nervous system is protecting familiarity. Familiarity always feels safe to the brain, and even if it is making you poorer. That is why Kaizen is powerful. Because Kaizen is so small, the brain doesn't see it as danger. One sip of water isn't worth resisting. Standing up for 10 seconds isn't worth rebelling against. Reducing one trade isn't worth a riot. But those small things, when repeated, start rewriting the pathways in the brain. Imagine it like this. A bad habit is like a dirt road walked thousands of times. Very easy to walk, very familiar. A new habit, at first, is like walking through tall grass. Hard, slow, awkward, but each time you walk through, the grass gets pressed down a little. After 30 times, a trail appears. After 100 times, it becomes a new road. And the strange part is, the brain begins to like the new road because it becomes familiar. That is how identity changes, not with promises, but with repetition. Nathan began to understand this when he tried a small experiment. For the next 14 days, he didn't try to become a disciplined trader. He only did 3 small things. After every losing trade, 1 sip of water. Each day, a maximum of 3 trades. After shutting down, write only 1 line in the journal. Only 1 line. Not long analysis, not deep philosophy. Just 1 sentence. What did I keep today? At first, it was too simple. He felt it was meaningless. But by day 6, something strange happened. He started to look forward to writing that sentence, because for the first time, he could see progress, even if tiny. Day 1. Today I didn't revenge after the first loss. Day 3. Today I stopped at exactly 3 trades. Day 7. Today I didn't drag the stop. Small wins create clean dopamine. Not dopamine from a big win, but dopamine from progress. And dopamine from progress lasts longer than dopamine from luck. That was when Nathan understood what makes traders addicted to the market is not money, it's dopamine. Price moves to dopamine, entering trades to dopamine, getting it back to dopamine. But Kaizen creates a different source of dopamine, dopamine of control. And when you start getting addicted to the feeling of control, you become less addicted to the feeling of stimulation. That is the real turning point. The 14-day system to break one bad habit in trading. If you want to apply Kaizen, don't make it complicated. Just remember 3 principles. 1, choose only 1 habit, not 3, not 5, only 1. 2, make it so small you cannot fail. 3, repeat it for 14 days. No optimizing, no upgrading. Example, if you often enter randomly, a Kaizen rule is not from tomorrow, only trade A plus setups. A Kaizen rule is, before every entry, count slowly from 1 to 5. That's it. If you often revenge, the Kaizen rule is, after a losing trade, stand up from the chair. That's it. If you often drag stops, the Kaizen rule is, after placing the stop, take a screenshot. That's it. These small things create friction, and small friction is enough to break a reflex. Nathan realized something very deep when he looked back at 7 years of trading. He had never lacked knowledge. He only lacked a gap between emotion and action, and Kaizen creates that gap. But there is still something even more important, something very few people talk about. Change doesn't fail because the method is wrong. It fails because humans hate the feeling of slow progress. We live in a world that loves fast, loves explosions, loves transformations, loves stories like 30 days to change your life. But trading doesn't reward speed. Trading rewards the survivor, and survival is always slow. Nathan began to feel a strange calm, not because he earned more, but because for the first time, he was no longer fighting himself every day. He didn't need to become perfect. He only needed to become someone who continues. And that was when a deeper change began, not in behavior, but in identity. He no longer thought, I'm the kind of person who breaks discipline. He started thinking, I'm the kind of person who comes back. The difference between those two sentences is the difference between a trader who stays stuck forever and a trader who finally matures. But there is a moment that anyone on this path will meet, the real stumble. A day of heavy discipline breaking, a week of losing control, a long slide. And that moment will decide whether you are truly changing or only trying temporarily. Chapter 5. The stumble moment, where everything is truly decided. If you trade long enough, you will realize one uncomfortable truth. No one holds perfect discipline forever. There will always be a day you are tired, you are sleep deprived, you just argued with someone, or simply the market moves too fast. And then you break discipline. Nathan too. After almost a month of stability, one Thursday afternoon, the gold market became extremely volatile. Long candles, running non-stop, shallow pullbacks, fast breaks. That kind of market pulls any trader in. Nathan had a small losing trade. He stood up and drank water, like his new habit. He came back, looked at the chart. Price kept running, very fast. A familiar feeling started to appear. Not as strong as before, but still there. I'm missing it. It's running. If I don't enter, it will go without me. He watched, trying to stay calm. Then one candle broke the high. Momentum was very strong, and in one moment, he clicked. No plan, no setup, just reflex. That trade lost. And then, the old loop returned faster than he expected. He entered again. Bigger lot. More tension. Shorter breathing. Within 40 minutes, he lost the money he had earned very slowly over 2 weeks. And the most dangerous moment wasn't then. It was when he shut down the computer. The familiar feeling returned. I'm still the same. I can't change. All this Kaizen is useless. That is the most dangerous moment in trading. Not losing money, but losing faith in yourself. Nathan sat still for a long time. He didn't reopen the chart, didn't review the trades, didn't analyze. He just sat. Then he remembered a sentence his friend had said very early. You will break discipline. What matters is not whether you break it. It's what you do the next day. Nathan went to bed early that night. No charts, no news, no trying to get it back. The next morning, he woke up, and inside his head, a small struggle began. Take a few days off. I don't want to look at charts. I'm tired of this. But then he remembered the Kaizen rule. You don't need to do a lot. Just do the smallest thing, so you don't lose momentum. He opened the computer. He didn't trade. He only opened the chart, only looked. That's it. That day, he took no trades. The next day, he took one very small trade. According to plan, small win, nothing special. But something very important happened. He came back. And that is what separates a mature trader from a trader who stays stuck forever. Not the person who never falls, but the person who comes back faster. That is what Wabi-Sabi in trading truly means. Accept that you are not perfect. Accept that you will have bad days. Accept that you will make stupid decisions. But don't turn one bad day into one bad month. Don't turn one mistake into identity. Nathan began to realize something very deep. Before, every time he broke discipline, he insulted himself a lot. I'm stupid. I have no discipline. I have no future. He thought self-blame would make him better. But the truth is, self-blame only made him want to hide. And when he hid, he traded randomly to escape that feeling. A loop. Kaizen doesn't use shame as motivation. Kaizen uses small progress. And small progress doesn't need perfection. It only needs continuation. Nathan created a new rule. Very simple. After every bad trading day, you are not allowed to analyze immediately. You only write one sentence. Did I come back today? Not. How much did I make today? How right was I today? Only one sentence. Did I come back? And he realized a strange truth. The day you come back is always the hardest day. But day 2 is a little easier. Day 3, easier again. Not because the market is easier, but because you broke the biggest resistance, starting again. Gambaru is not a big effort. Gambaru is not disappearing. Nathan kept applying small changes, not adding more, not optimizing. And after a few months, he looked back at his trading history. Not profit, but something else. The streaks of discipline breaking became shorter. Before, one break could drag on 34 days. Now, only a few hours. Often, only one trade. That is real progress. Not becoming someone else, but becoming a version who destroys himself less. And that was also when Nathan understood something that he had never understood before. Trading is not a journey of learning to beat the market. It is a journey of learning to not destroy yourself. But there is still one final piece. A piece that, once you understand it, everything becomes very clear. Why small changes don't just change behavior, but eventually change the person you are. Why one day you no longer have to try to be disciplined, but discipline becomes natural. Chapter 6. When discipline is no longer effort, but becomes who you are, there is a phase almost every trader goes through. Yeah, but very few recognize it as the turning point. It's when you do the same things as before, but the inside feeling is different. Nathan noticed it on a very ordinary afternoon. The market was sideways, constant false breakouts, a kind of market that easily makes people bored and click randomly. Before, this was the most dangerous environment for Nathan, not when the market was highly volatile, but when it was slow, dull, and long. Boredom is a very dangerous emotion in trading. Boredom makes you want to do something, and trading is right in front of you, one click away. Nathan watched the chart for about 20 minutes. No clear setup, no reason to enter. A small thought appeared. Maybe just try a small trade. That thought was familiar. It had pulled him into hundreds of meaningless trades. But this time, something was different. And he watched that thought, like watching a cloud pass by, not fighting it, not self-blaming, not trying to be disciplined, just doing nothing. And a few minutes later, that thought disappeared on its own. Nathan sat there, slightly surprised. He didn't win a big battle. He just didn't react. And that was the moment he understood something inside him had changed. Before, discipline was a war. Now, discipline was the default state. Not always, but more and more often. That is when identity begins to change. A psychologist once said a very memorable sentence. People do not act according to goals, they act according to identity. If you believe you are someone who breaks discipline, you will find ways to break it, even if you don't want to. If you start believing you are someone who keeps small promises, you will find ways to keep them, even if no one forces you. Identity doesn't change through affirmations. It changes through evidence. Every time Nathan stood up after a loss, one small piece of evidence appeared. Every time he stopped after 3 trades, another small piece of evidence appeared. Every time he came back after a bad day, more evidence. Small evidence quietly rewrote the story in his head. I'm someone who comes back. I'm someone who keeps small rules. I'm someone who doesn't quit. No need to say it. No need to affirm it. Just repeat. And one day, those behaviors become as natural as brushing your teeth. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth. You don't need willpower to get dressed. You don't need to force yourself to drink when you're thirsty. Because that is who you are. Discipline in trading can become like that too. But not by forcing, by building. One brick at a time. Nathan began to notice an even deeper change. He no longer saw trading as a battle with the market. He saw it as an environment where he trains how to live, patience, composure, not reacting immediately, accepting imperfection, continuing every day. Those things didn't just make him trade better, they made him live better. He was less angry in traffic, less reactive when others said unpleasant things, less rushed in big decisions. And that was when he understood Kaizen is not a trading method, it is a way of living. Trading is simply where you see it most clearly, because the market reflects you very honestly. If you rush, it shows you you're rushing. If you are greedy, it shows you your greed. If you lack patience, it shows you your lack of patience. But if you change, the market reflects that too. Not immediately, but over time, very clearly. Nathan didn't become a perfect trader. He still had bad days, still made mistakes, still entered early or exited early sometimes. But one thing was gone. Long, self-destructive spirals. He no longer fell into multi-day loops. He stumbled, then came back. And in trading, that is already a huge advantage, because the market doesn't kill you in one trade. It kills you in a chain of losing control, and Kaizen cuts that chain. If you remember only one thing from this entire story, remember this. You don't need to become a good trader immediately. You only need to become a person who destroys himself a little less each day. That's it. No need to be perfect, no need to explode. There's no need to change your whole life in 30 days. Just one small change. Repeat it long enough, and then one day, you will look back and realize the one who changed was not the market. It was you. Chapter 7. The last thing most traders realize, too late. There is a truth most traders only understand after many years. Not after one losing trade, not after 1 week of drawdown, but after looking back and realizing that their account was not destroyed by one big decision. It was destroyed by hundreds of small decisions, repeated every day. One entry because you were bored, one stop drag because you were afraid, one revenge because you were angry, one lot increase because you wanted to recover faster. Each one was very small, so small at the time you thought, it's okay. But those small things build who you become in trading. And the opposite is true as well. You don't become a disciplined trader in one day. You become a disciplined trader through small actions, repeated long enough until they become instinct. No one sees those changes. No one claps. No one knows you just refused a random trade. No one knows you stopped at the right time. But those moments no one sees shape who you really are. There is a very simple image, but if you remember it, it will help you a lot. Imagine two ships leaving the harbor from the same starting point. One is off by just 1 degree, only 1 degree. In 1 hour, no one sees the difference. In 1 day, it's still unclear. But after a few months, they are in 2 different oceans. Trading is the same. You don't need to change your whole life today. You only need to shift 1 degree in the right direction. One small action. At one small rule. One small promise that you keep. Then tomorrow, one more small step. Until one day you will look back and realize it wasn't that you beat the market, it was that you stopped destroying yourself, and that is the real turning point. Because the market does not reward the smartest person. It does not reward the best analyst. The market rewards the person who stays long enough for small progress to accumulate into big strength. Before we end, I want you to do one very simple thing. No big plan. No changing 10 things at once. Just answer one question. Tomorrow, what is the smallest change you can begin? So small, you have no reason not to do it. Count 5 seconds before entering. Stand up after a losing trade. Stop after 3 trades. Write 1 line in a journal, only one thing, and do that for 14 days. No optimizing. No upgrading. Just repetition. Because real change does not come from motivation. It comes from repetition. If you have listened this far, it means you don't only want to make money from trading. You want to become a different person, a calmer person, a more patient person, a person who destroys himself less. And that is absolutely possible. Not overnight, but step by step. So, before you leave this video, promise yourself one very small thing. Not something big. Just one small thing you will do tomorrow, and then begin from there, step by step, day by day, until one day you look back and realize the person you wanted to become was built from small choices that you once thought didn't matter.